Welcome to Beyond the Work, Tales in Multifamily Maintenance. My name is Chris Caramanica. As a 15-plus year veteran in the apartment industry, I have stories to tell, a desire to hear and tell others' stories. As a multiple committee member for NAA, a CAMT advisory board member and a CAMT holder, and a national presenter and educator, I have met and worked with so many great people in our industry at all different levels. This is not going to be a how-to podcast. This is going to be a how did podcast. We are going to explore the how did tales in multifamily maintenance. How did we do it? How did we learn from it? How did we grow? How did we decide not to do it again? Join me as we go beyond the work. Hello all, and welcome to a very special episode of both Beyond the Work, Tales in Multifamily Maintenance, and the Multifamily Mixtape. Mark and I wanted to get together today and talk to you about our experiences at NAA's Advocate conference in Washington, D.C. last week. So, Mark, you and I got to spend a lot of time together and a lot of time apart. So we got to see the Advocate conference from two very unique perspectives, and I wanted to share it on both of our shows. I think it's a fantastic way for us to recap. But for the listening audience that may not be familiar with Advocate, what is Advocate from your perspective and what you saw over the last week?
So Advocate for me, if I'm just being honest, and that's one thing I try to keep on just very even on my show is Advocate is personally, it's not my favorite conference because politics personally is something I try to stay away from because you can just go down a lot of different ways and you're just always going to have differing opinions with people you talk to. And, I'm a nice person and I really just try to not have those kind of conversations with individuals. But from my perspective, Advocate, the lobbying, going to Capitol Hill, scheduling meetings with your senators, with your representatives, and having those tough conversations, it's very nerve-wracking, especially for me as an individual who tends to stay away from politics. But this is it's only the second time I've been to Advocate. This is the second time I've been to Capitol Hill. This is the second time that we've scheduled meetings with Senator Scott, Senator Graham, Representative William Timmons, Representative Sherry Biggs. She's new. She took Jeff Duncan's seats in South Carolina. So this is the second time that I at least have been a part of groups that have met with these individuals. And even though I tend to stay away from the politics, I understand why this is important. I understand now because I'm learning the legislation. I'm learning the bills that we keep going back to them. Like, hey, let's end the 120 days. Let's end the CARES. Let's reform YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. Let's do some work on TCJA, which is tax reform and
keep the Section 8 program, boost up the Section 8 program. So a lot of things that we were hearing this week that
right.
And I think that's the most important thing is I am like you. I have my political views, but I am not going to share them with the world. They are my personal views. But the National Apartment Association is our advocacy group for our region. We have lobbyists at NAA, at the local, state, federal level, and this is the opportunity where people from all over our industry and all over our country can come to Washington, D.C. on a set schedule to really meet with their representatives that they might not be able to meet back in their home states. And it has a little bit more weight and a little bit more gravitas, if you will, when you get to go to a representative or senator's office to talk about the importance of multifamily housing, about the importance of our residents, and the effects that legislation have. Now, I say just effects because it could be positive. There are positive effects and there are negative effects. And I know when you went to the Hill, you were talking about the positives of certain legislation and the negatives of other legislation.
Sure. And it's again, just for somebody like me who's only been two times, I began to get comfortable because we're having the same conversations. in my territory, right? Because certain states already have laws that do and they don't need to go lobby, and that's great. Good for you.
I live in one of those states. The contingent, there was not a contingent that I could join on the Hill because the lobbying efforts done by my state association are done at a grassroots level in the, more at the state level than at the federal. And so you're right. Every state is different. There are groups from I saw some LinkedIn posts over the last couple of days. You're a big contingent from South Carolina, but I know some states only had one or two people that went to go meet with their state senators or their state representatives.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like, I'm glad I'm going. I'm glad I've been a part of it. I'm glad I can say that I've been to the Hill, right? It's like, are you going to the Hill today? I'm like, what the heck? What's the Hill? Like, I don't know, but I'm glad I can say I was a part of it. I'm glad I had that experience. Again, it's not something that I get super passionate about. For me, what I love about Advocate is the networking. I love the meeting new people. I love the receptions. We had our first committee meetings of the year. That sort of stuff at Advocate, that's what excites me. That's the work that we can do within NAA on a committee level. That's why I go to Advocate. That's why I want to be a part of it. The stuff on the Hill, it's a good learning experience, but it's not something I get like super excited about because, again, it's just not for me.
I am the same way, but there are plenty of people that do come and it's their Super Bowl. Like for me, and the Apartmentalize conference is my Super Bowl. I really enjoy the Apartmentalize conference. Not just because it's in Las Vegas this year. But I enjoy that because of the educational sessions. Again, every conference that the association does, the National Association does, has a very specific set of guide rails, and I enjoy Advocate for the reasons that you said, but there are plenty of people within the organization who that is their Super Bowl, for them to go to the Hill and meet with their senators and really talk about the importance of our industry to this country, to their states, to their residents, to their owners, to their developers. It is an all-inclusive thing. And not to get too political while we were talking about politics, I don't even know how you can do that, but there's been constant changes in our federal government when it comes to our industry since COVID, both in the positive and the negative. So it is really important for us as an industry to be at the forefront and speaking up. Because if we're not, then we're not being listened to. And that's why a conference like Advocate, no matter what the political climate is really important. Because if you're not talking about it, nobody's talking about it.
Correct. And I remember last year that when we went to one of our representatives' office and we said, hey, we need you to look at this bill. He needed us to explain the bill to him from our perspective. He, like everyone else, you get the media's top points. It's here, here, and here, and this is all it is. And that's what he was getting, but he didn't understand the 30 other things below it. And that was really eye-opening too. It's to me, just as a constituent, just as a voter, it's like, what do you mean you don't know? But they're rarely represented or given one bill at a time. It's a package that has 100 million things in it, and you got to pass it in order to figure out what's in it. And so it was a really cool. And to what you said earlier, like this is some people's Super Bowl. MMN podcast host Katie Spillers, this is her Super Bowl. A lot of other people like her, but I got to witness her 2 years in a row now. It's like watching Tiger Woods play golf, right? When she gets going, when she gets to talking to these representatives and just holding them accountable, it is great to watch. You just sit back and I don't have to say anything because she's got it covered. And that was definitely a plug for her podcast, because if you love legislation, if you love advocacy, if you love that, then The Real Spill on MMN, you need to subscribe to Katie Spillers, because that girl, it is like watching Tiger Woods play golf when it comes to her and her advocacy efforts.
Yeah, there's so many Katie's amazing, and there's so many people that really do a great job in their home states with their local legislation, and even at the federal level, really being advocates for our industry. And I think it's really important. And it's not something that's talked about a lot. I think, this conference comes every March. And so it was really important. You and I spent a lot of time together over the last couple of days. And, we talked about its importance. But, let's move on. That is one major aspect of Advocate. It is why we all descend on DC. It's the same time every year. It's the same location every year, right? Unlike some of the other conferences that we attend. But it's also, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, it's committee kickoff, right? It's our first, if you are a member of a committee, and there are, I don't even know the exact count. I probably should, being a volunteer for as long as I've been at the national level. But there is a large amount of committees that help guide, lead, and advise the National Apartment Association on issues that range from technology to legislation to our credentialing programs. So many different committees: affordable housing, privatized military housing. But it's really the first time we're all able to get together in person, set our agendas for the year, create our work plans for the year, and actually start to do things that the industry gets to see, whether that's resources on the NAA website, apartmentalized sessions, units articles in the digital and print magazines. Mark, what committees were you able to, are you on this year, or were you able to even sit as a member of the gallery? Because even if you're not on a committee, you can actually go and witness committee work that's actually happening live in front of you. So yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah. So this year I'm serving on two committees. One of them is an NAA committee. It's IRO, the Independent Rental Owners. That is a great committee. I wanted to get involved in that one because, as a member of our local affiliate at Upper State Apartment Association, NOAA Property Management is considered an IRO. And I was at Advocate there on NOAA's behalf. So I like to try to understand what NAA considers an IRO and what they're doing to help independent rental owners. So I signed up for that committee, and this is my second year in a row serving on IRO. And then I got chosen to serve on an NAAEI board or committee for curriculum development, which this is my first time serving on that committee. And we had our first meeting. You were there. It was the combined meeting with programs administration, right? Right. And so that committee, my first time sitting in on that one, and I'm really excited about both of them. From an IRO perspective, and I'm on the influencing side of that. So how do we get out and generate some knowledge about IROs, like what keeps IROs up at night? And some of the conversations and topics we took out of our committee meeting are evictions. You have these, not that evictions are great for anybody, they're not. And, the multifamily housing industry, we're not evil landlords. We want to keep people in their homes. We do not like kicking people out of their homes. However, you have to pay. You have to pay your rent in order to stay in our homes. That's it. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. If I don't pay the rent on my house, or I don't pay the mortgage on my house, guess what? Somebody comes and takes it. So, if I don't pay my car loan, someone comes and takes it. You just gotta. But Evictions keep these independent rental owners up at night because we don't have, like IROs don't have the big technology. They don't have the big firms that do all of the evictions and processing and things. And they don't know the advocacy efforts from NAA. So our job as on the IRO committee is to educate independent rental owners. Hey, these are the resources that are available to you if you support your local affiliate. You have access to the Blue Moon lease. You have access to all of these advocacy efforts, all of these education opportunities to keep you up to date with the law changes and all of these things. So whether you're a ma and pa owner or you've got 2 million units across the world, being involved at your local affiliate, we all have the same technologies. We all have the same things available to us. You just have to know that they're available. So that's part of the work that we're doing, that I specifically am doing within the subcommittee of IRO. But IRO also does apartmentalized education. They also do several other things that I just am not educated enough to even mention, but so many other efforts. But then the NAAEI board or committee, I keep saying board, committee, I'm really enjoying this one because we're taking a deep dive look into a lot of the credentialing programs that NAAEI offers. And what can we do to strengthen them? What can we do to make them more appealing, get more people signed up? But after the meeting the other day, Chris, we have people sign up to attend the class and go through the class, but then they never take the credentialing exam. So why? And that's the point of that committee, is to figure out the why and then to do what we can to make it better.
Yeah, you and I both sit on the joint committee for curriculum development and program administration. You're on the curriculum development side, and I'm on the program administration side. But it's always interesting to see that, and for us to talk about what are some of the challenges with owners and operators not wanting to send. Let's specifically go down the rabbit hole of KMT. Very nice.
I kept it.
Hey, I get it. I have more than my fair share as well. So I think that, one of the big challenges that we have is not for lack of desire of maintenance professionals. We're both maintenance, kind of maintenance skewed shows. It's not for lack of desire for maintenance professionals to learn or take it. There is a lack of desire from owners and operators to lose their maintenance professionals. For the CAMT program, a maintenance technician or a maintenance supervisor or even a groundskeeper that wants to do CAMT is could be off-site upwards of 6 to 8 days to fully complete a training program. And there is not an appetite, and which is why we've seen some numbers go down for enrollments. And I think that's something that we're looking at as an organization, as the National Apartment Association Education Institute, to really look at talking to owners and operators and management companies. And, one of the things that we're working on is creating business cases of why this is important. And you and I have spoke about this both off air and on air, and we've spoke about it on our individual shows. That a program like CAMT, which is the national it's not accredited. It is a certified a certificate program that is supported by ANAB, which is ANSI's National Accreditation Board. That is the only one. It's the gold standard. This is what we need for new people coming into our industry to learn the basics, and it's not just for new. It is for somebody that may have been in the industry. I took CAMT I was in the industry for 10 years before I took CAMT. Proudly, by the way. And I took it and I learned stuff that I didn't know before, or it reinforced what I had already been either self-taught
as I've said many times on my show, I'm self-taught in a lot of ways, reinforced what I was doing right and corrected what I was doing wrong. But that's one of the things that we're working on the program administration side is let's focus on the why. And focus on owners and operators and management companies to use this nationally recognized program. And in some states, the state of Florida,
it's required.
You can't be a maintenance technician.
That's right.
At an apartment community without having your CAMT. And I wish more states would do that. Maybe maybe that's our next big advocacy push.
That's our big advocacy thing, right? Let's lobby to have,
to go with the red thread. But yeah, there's some great things going on with, curriculum development. We're looking at the CAMT program from a very high level. There was some major revisions to CAM and CALP, and that's been rolled out now. It's online versions are out for both of those courses as well as in person. And, this is the stuff that's really important in our industry is education, because engagement surveys consistently say at organizations or at a national level, everybody wants training. Well, the National Apartment Association's Education Institute, which is an arm of NAA, it is different from the National Apartment Association, provides it. And that's, owners, operators, managers, even, if you're listening to this and you don't have, a credential from the National Apartment Association, go get it. That's my plug, because I think it is really important to keep learning and use the resources that are available.
Yeah. And what I really like about the credentialing program is, like, once you get that credential, in order to maintain it, you have a certain level of give back that you have to do for your local association or, other associations like it. So there's a continuing ed portion of it. And so it's, hey, you invested some time and some income into this. You got this accreditation. You can now keep these initials behind your name, but now it's time to give back. So, you have to commit to 12 hours a year and of service. And I like that, because that's what helps. It's what I can only speak for myself, but that's what helped make me better is, learning it. It's great. Yes. But I learn it even more the more I teach it. It's always something new that I take out of it. There's always something different that I take out of it. And it really helps the individuals become a little bit, I would say a little bit better, but it's just, I don't know. I guess I just like that you have to continuously earn that. It's not a one and done kind of thing, but it keeps you in the program. It keeps you up to date. It keeps you educated. And I really like that component of it, that it's, you now have to give back to the industry if you want to keep that accreditation. And, that includes board work. It includes, any teaching that you do. It includes conferences. Like you actually get your CECs from going to conference. So, if you don't like standing in front of a crowd, or you don't like teaching, but it keeps you involved. And by being involved, you stay up to date with the changes, because just like legislation, just on the maintenance side of things, the EPA, if you didn't know that the EPA got rid of 410A equipment and pushed the industry to start using new A2L refrigerants, like if you weren't there, if you weren't staying up to date with it, you would have no idea. And so I like that it kind of forces you to stay up on the changes.
So, some of the other committees that, I personally have the privilege of being on this year is our RPM careers committee. And I wanted to do a quick plug, because that is a really huge effort from the National Apartment Association. And the committee does some excellent work. We did a refresh last year of the program. And RPM's Career Week is right around the corner. It will, this episode is going to be airing the week before RPM Careers Week. So on both of our channels. So RPM's Career Week is the week of April 14th through the 18th. You can go to naahq.org/RPM/Careers Week, or you can just search RPM Careers Week to learn more about it. But we have some great challenges, some better prizes this year for RPM Careers. And what I like is we've, as a committee, and this is what the committee work is for, right? It's to figure out what works, what doesn't work, improve. And it's not just this committee, but it's all the committees that we work with. We're constantly improving. So, day one on Monday, April 14th is Leadership Support Services. So you can really recognize the leaders in your organization, or maybe team members that are at an offsite location, maybe your bookkeeper, that works offsite, or your regional leadership, or your corporate support services. On Tuesday, our very special day, is Maintenance and Service Professionals Day, Tuesday, April 15th. On Wednesday, April 16th, we have On-Site Teams Day. I love seeing these photos every year. We'll talk about that in a second. Photos and videos of on-site teams doing little dances and really showing off their communities. On Thursday, April 17th, is the Super Supplier Collaborator Day, which our supplier partners are so important to our industry. They're not just the people that, give us goods and services. They truly are partners. And a lot of these days are actually being sponsored by some of our National Apartment Association sponsors for these events. And then the last one, personal favorite, and I'm sure Mark and I will both be recording something for why we love our RPM, our Real Property Management Careers, on Friday, April 18th. So be on the lookout for that. But there's some great, prizes, from team outings to flight vouchers, to outdoor gear, travel vouchers. So there's some great opportunities. So take a photo or make a video of your favorite group that was described and post it on Instagram and Facebook. And there's tons of more information. But it's really important, especially the Maintenance and Service Professionals Day. I am a little biased. So, we want to see some great people in our industry showing off and telling their stories. Sorry, I didn't plan on doing a plug for RPM's Career Week, but I think that I think it's so important, because you get to see the kind of things that people are doing all over the country, no matter what state you're in, no matter what job you have. We're all doing the same thing, just in a different state, just in a different type of community, or a different community. So I think it's a great opportunity. Mark, do you have any thoughts on RPM Careers, or, the week? I know I've submitted why I love my RPM career videos in the past, and I've already got a couple things that I got cooking for RPM Career Week.
On the national level, I get psyched up at our local level for upper state. We throw a bunch of people and a lot of different cars, and we pack little goodies. We pack fun stuff, posters, noisemakers, and each of us gets a list of properties, and it's randomly selected and by zip code. And it's like, all right, you go this way, you go this way, you go this way. And we have a boombox, loud music, and we bust in the property doors, hooting and hollering, whistles, posters, like RPM Careers, and then we just sit there, we relax with them. They get their we call it the cool kids, but it's KOOL, and we bring those little Kool-Aid, juice boxes and some random stuff, but we also give out prizes and other things too. So I like getting involved at the local level, because these are people I know. These are people I see at industry events, at association events, who are extremely passionate about what they do and the positions that they hold. And so being involved at a local level, really, the first time I kind of signed up for it by accident. It was like, hey, we need a volunteer. And I said, sure, I'll do it. I didn't realize what I was volunteering for, but man, I had a blast. That was probably one of the more fun days I've had, working an association event was driving around and doing that. And so since I messed up and volunteered, I'll say messed up, but since it was an accidental volunteer, I didn't know what I was getting into. I have since volunteered every time because it really is a blast. But it's really neat to see all the social media posts. I love there are just some extremely creative people out there, and every year people just outdo it, and I love watching it. It's a blast. And just again, we talk about how amazing the multifamily industry is, and we talk about the challenges that we have of getting people into the industry, or why it's not an industry people choose. Everyone you talk to fell into it on accident. So, but when you see the amount of love and just all the appreciation, you see all of the happiness that comes along with it, you wonder why. It's a career that you have trouble getting people into. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time.
So, Mark, we have been talking a lot, and I am not done talking to you. So this is what I'm going to propose to you and our listening audience. I want to continue this conversation. So we're going to invite you all back to our next week's episode. So this week, Mark and I have talked about advocacy. We've talked about Advocate in general. We talked a little bit about our committee updates and RPM careers, but we only scratched the surface from what was 2.5 days in Washington, D.C. So I am going to thank you all for joining Mark and I to talk about just this small portion of Advocate. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to invite you back to next week's episode, where we are going to take a deeper dive and talk a little bit more about our committee work. We want to talk about networking because it's so important to our industry to network. And there's a couple of other things that Mark and I had some shared experiences that I want to get into. So, Mark, anything as we close out this episode, this unique episode of Beyond the Work Tales in Multifamily Maintenance and Multifamily Mixtape?
No, just we appreciate you being here, and we hope that this part one was enough to want to get you to come back for part two, because we do have some interesting conversations coming up, and you don't want to miss it. So you can't read half a book.
You can't read half a book. So come back next week for the next episodes of Multifamily Mixtape and Beyond the Work.
All right.
Heroes in a Half Show.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. No matter how long you've been in our industry, or what position you have at your company or your community, everyone has a maintenance story to tell. Go to www.multifamilymedianetwork.com and leave me a voice message, or share your information and we can tell your tale together on a future episode. Please check out our sponsors and like, subscribe, and follow to this podcast or video, and join the Multifamily Media News Network newsletter for upcoming shows and blogs from me and the other great hosts on our network. Our stories all connect us. See you for the next chapter.